No, he's a good one. And Travin Doral, to me, is somebody I kind of thought of in that third round range who can go up and will high point the football down the field. And I think he's been solid so far this week. This would be a big day for him. Let's see if he can keep that going. And how about Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali slash my guy from Grambling right here?
Chad Williams, he didn't back down, did he? I mean, yesterday we had some fisticuffs. You don't really want to see that, but look, you want to make a name for yourself. He's coming in from a small school, Grambling. He's the first Grambling player since Scotty Anderson back in 2001 being here. And of course, another player we haven't mentioned is Josh Reynolds. And, you know, Josh has had a chance to make some big plays and just hadn't been able to quite seal the deal. But I think if he can gain some weight, pick up a bit more strength, he's definitely a vertical threat type of receiver.
Well, the next time you get together with Mayock up in the booth, you got to ask about him fighting Ivy Leaguers. Mike?
You like that story, didn't you?
I loved it. I loved it.
The sad thing is it's true.
Well, to me, that shows not only you're competitive, Mike, but it shows you're a good scout because you found the right opponent.
Hey, you got to pick a fight you can win, right, Mike?
No, I knew the fight would be broken up very quickly, so I just picked a big Ivy Leaguer and jumped on his back after the whistle, and it was over. That's all.
We started that conversation because as Phil and as DJ were discussing, you had a fight down there yesterday at the end of practice. No big deal. Everyone goes to their separate corner, and you go back out here for one final day. And one final day of practice, gentlemen, where you want to see that you learned something this week. You want to see that all the teaching, you want to see that everything actually worked, and you want to see improvement, Mike, as well. Don't you? Isn't that a big thing?
Yeah, from Tuesday to Thursday, and here we are Thursday afternoon. You want to see them finish. Is Phil still on down there with us?
Yes.
And Phil, I'm just wondering, you're down there with the wide receiver. I know Switzer's got a wrap on his ankle, and I got a report from his agent that he turned that ankle a little bit. What's his status?
His status that he is up and active, obviously, for this practice and wants to play in the game. So, you know, Dean Kleinsmith has been working the Senior Bowl for 41 years as our medical trainer. And he does a tremendous job with these players. So I think Switzer will be fine for Saturday.
Good.
These guys are working on their footwork here in terms of getting both feet down. This is different for a college player because in college you can lift your front leg and drag your back toe and keep one foot down. In this case, they're having to keep the front foot down and drag the second foot, and that's a little different technique. And Coach Saunders trying to work that with them here.
And you mentioned Dean Kleinschmidt. Of course, his son, Rhett, works for us, the only NFL Network. The only difference, though, is that Rhett apparently didn't like his last name.
Come on now.
So he changed it. Pretty amazing to me.
He likes his last name. We like Dean Kleinschmidt as well, certainly.
Oh, Dean's awesome.
He's
Dean's one of the best people I've ever met, as is Rhett. But
absolutely.
Every time I see Rhett, I tease him about somebody giving him a TV name.
Hey, let's talk about these wide receivers here. And Phil described the drill here, Mike. How difficult is it to make that transition from 1 foot to 2 foot? And is that ever something that you look at in scouting where maybe a wide receiver in a college game doesn't try to drag that second foot, or you don't think maybe he can be that guy with good
You know,
footwork?
the way I look at this, Andrew, is that the guys that have natural hands, that have extreme confidence in their hands, really have no problem adjusting to 1 foot or 2 foot because catching the football comes naturally to them. It's just an extension of that. I think the guys that struggle, that double tap and let it into their bodies, it's another thing to worry about, and they don't do it as naturally.
See Hugh Jackson here in the field working with the quarterbacks. He was out here well before practice got underway when the quarterbacks were warming up with a watchful eye standing with them. We see Josh Dobbs on the screen. What's your impression after a couple of days of Josh Dobbs?
Long drink of water. Felt like watching his tape, he had to kind of hasten the process a little bit, be more consistent with both his footwork and his accuracy. I think Hugh Jackson, who you see right there, has been working with him, especially as they, and Phil can talk about this a little bit. I mean, Phil, we talk about these college quarterbacks, most of whom have never been under center in their lives. So this is a whole new regimen for them, and it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, Mike, with Josh Dobbs, of course, he was a 4-year player for Tennessee, essentially. He went in mid-season his freshman year, and it was a college spread offense for the Vols. So you're right, he has not been under center very much. I thought this was an important week for him to at least start the process of transitioning from a college-style scheme to more of a pro-type system. I think the biggest question on Josh Dobbs in my mind is consistent accuracy.
Right.
He will grab your attention with 2 or 3 throws, and then the 4th throw is not even close. And that's the part of it to me that is most puzzling when you really evaluate him.
Josh Dobbs is getting good coaching this week. He also got some good coaching back in Tennessee. Take a look at this.
You doing good?
I'm good. I'm Josh Dobbs.
Josh Payton, good to see you, buddy.
Nice to meet you.
Good to...
I actually came to one of your camps
Yeah.
back in the 8th grade.
8th grade, long time ago. I always say, if you're late, if you throw it too far, if you don't bend them, throw it too far, vertical.
That's the safety.
We always say, that safety will give you a headache. You pull them too much, that safety will put you in the hospital. So headache, hospital, split them, right? Split them.
That's pretty cool there. Peyton Manning back on campus. That was from the Timeline show. Josh Dobbs, 3,781 total yards of offense this year. He was 8 yards shy of Peyton's school record.
That's a cool little vignette with Peyton. And I work the Manning Passing Academy most summers and have an opportunity to watch Peyton and Eli work with college quarterbacks. And I can't even imagine being 21 years old and wanting to make this your vocation and having a guy like Peyton Manning, an alumnus of your school, spend that kind of time with you.
Said he was a Manning camper, if you will. It's a little redundant, as an 8th grader. And now he's out there with Hugh Jackson. Looks like they're talking about footwork.
Quarterbacks are built from the ground up. And you could go back to Bill Walsh in the San Francisco 49ers and Joe Montana. And Bill Walsh would tell you that he could watch a film of a quarterback's feet and tell you whether or not he had a good game.
That's fascinating. Feet only.
Ground up, Andrew. That's where you build quarterbacks, and that's why the footwork of being under center is so important in the NFL, and these guys, it's totally foreign to them.
And it's not only foreign for Dobbs, it's foreign as well for Davis Webb. Mike, we've talked a lot about that. Whether it's at Texas Tech or at Cal, he's not used to being under center either.
Hey, from Tiffin to Tennessee to Cal, all 3 of those guys had no idea what 5-step or 5 with a hitch is. All 3 of these guys don't turn their backs on play action. It's all different.
And it's the footwork. It's also reading a defense as well, Mike, because when you stand back there in the shotgun, you get a clear view of the field. When you actually have to see moving pieces when you're backpedaling, that's part of the adjustment.
See, depending on old school pass attacks, your footwork, the number of steps you take, are tied into the depth of the route. So a 5-step, a 5 with a hitch is tied into the depth of the wide receiver route. When you're in shotgun, a lot of it is just set your feet and throw. Sometimes it's 3 steps. Sometimes it's just a quick hop. So it's a completely different timing mechanism to go from gun to under center.
When we had the north on the field earlier today, I asked you, has any of the quarterbacks on that side distanced himself from the group? What about this group here? Has any of these 3 kind of stepped up and said, I'm the guy?
I don't think so. I think what I saw on tape is kind of representative of what I've seen here, which is the Pipkin kid from Tiffin. He's 6'1", he's got a live arm, he's got a long way to go, but he's athletic. Josh Dobbs looks to me like a developmental quarterback, and I agree 100% with what Phil said. 2, 3, 4 snaps in a row, you go, wow, 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 and then out of nowhere, a clunker from an accuracy perspective, and you wonder why. Can you clean that up, in other words? And this Davis Webb guy is interesting. He threw the ball 52 times a game. I got the feeling you'd like to work with Davis Webb a little bit. He's got a bigger arm than I thought. The ball comes out quickly. They kind of are who I thought they were coming into Mobile.
DJ and Phil down there, what about you on the quarterbacks?
Well, Phil, I want to get your thoughts on this because we were around a quarterback with the Browns and Derek Anderson, and when I watched Davis Webb and the size and kind of the arm strength, I would say good, not great athlete. I see a little bit of Derek Anderson, who's become one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, Davis has got big hands and he's got a big arm. And to me, of the 3 on this South team, he's the one that I would want to work with the most. I think he's got the most upside in terms of maybe being able to get there quicker than the other 2. But one quick insider's note for you guys. I was at a luncheon with Coach Hugh Jackson today, and he revealed to the audience that Josh Dobbs will open the game and play a third. Then it'll go to Josh Dobbs, then to Davis Webb, and then to Antonio Pipkin to finish it out. So they're going to play 3 segments, and once you're out, you're out. So that's the way that they're going to line them up on Saturday.
All right, so breaking news from Phil Savage. Josh Dobbs is going to be the starting quarterback Saturday for this team, the South team, at the 2017 Reese's Senior Bowl. Mike?
Yeah, and talking about quarterbacks, this morning we had the North team, and in between practices, I spent about 15 minutes with Pat Narduzzi, the head football coach at Pitt, and I said, you know, I wish I had seen you before the first practice. You know, who is Nate Peterman? What kind of kid is he? He said, Mike, he's Kirk Cousins. He is exactly Kirk. He's got the same work ethic, the same toughness, the same leadership skills, everything about him. And he said his arm's every bit as good also, which surprised me. So kind of interesting to hear that. And obviously you're going to get an endorsement from your college coach, but I thought that was an interesting comparison.
You're looking at the quarterbacks there on the left. That's Davis Webb. And you're looking at the linebackers there on your right as the South is on the field for their last practice of the day. And the Browns have a decision to make because they are looking for a quarterback. Most people think that quarterback isn't necessarily there at number 1, that you go defense. Interesting, Joe Thomas with our colleague Dan Patrick today on the radio. Joe Thomas, the perennial All-Pro left tackle, Mike says, I'd say you want to go defense. Quote, I think you need to get a pass rusher. I think you got to be careful reaching for a quarterback at number 1 because if they fail, they don't help your team at all.
He is preaching to the choir when he talks to me. And they traded down a bunch last year, accumulated, got a lot of draft picks last year. I think they got to get a difference maker at 1. They've got to make sure they love the kid and they know he's going to step in week 1 and make a difference. And I think it's the defensive end from Texas A&M. Myles Garrett. That's who I think, and it's too early in the process to even say that, but he jumps off the tape. And then you come back to 12, and you go, okay, we can move up, we can move down, we can stay there. Is there a quarterback there that we will bang the table for? If he is, that's fine. But again, I'm not fully convinced that any of the 3 top quarterbacks are even worthy of number 12. We're talking Deshaun Kaiser from Notre Dame, Trubisky from North Carolina, and Deshaun Watson from Clemson. I had 3 scouts tell me last night that Trubisky, when they weigh him in at the combine, instead of 6'2½", he's going to be 6'1" and 1/8 or 2.
Which does mean a lot to a lot of people.
You hate to say it, but it does. And so if the Browns aren't convinced that any of those 3 top guys are worth number 1 or number 12, then they've got a lot of homework to do with the Senior Bowl guys and the East-West guys and everybody else, or they just stand pat and get a bunch of good position players because next year is a better quarterback class on paper.
And DJ, they have a lot of draft capital as well, 2 1s and 2 2s. So whomever you take at 1, if there's another blue chipper that you think is a top 10 pick, a top 5 pick, you have those 2s to move up potentially from 12 to go get a second stud to put somewhere, I'm guessing, defense.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of, would they trade back from 1? Personally, I think that would be a mistake. Sit right there, get the best player in the draft. I agree that it is Myles Garrett. And then if you want to move around with 12, be it up to go get an impact guy or to get out, I wouldn't mind. Mike talked about next year being on paper a better quarterback class. I wouldn't mind if at some point in time they traded some picks and got even more picks for next year. But at 1, just sit tight and take a stud.
Get a great player. Know that you come out with a day 1 starter that's going to get people excited.
Yeah. Day 1 starter, and they started building that defense last year. Emmanuel Ogbah out of Oklahoma State had a strong season. Carl Nassib certainly showed some potential, especially early in the season before a hand injury. The Penn State defensive end. Hypothetically, you put another blue chip defensive lineman there at number 1 with that mix. Greg Williams, certainly we heard from earlier, and Hugh Jackson would certainly like that.
Okay, pair it up. Let's go.
Getting some coaching going on with the linebackers and defensive backs. We saw Greg Williams' son Blake just a moment ago.
Okay, we're doing machine gun. So you
Blake Williams coaching the linebackers here.
hit this bag twice.
Coming with his dad to this Brown staff as they reworked the defensive staff here. not so much the offensive staff. Browns technically without an offensive coordinator, though Hugh Jackson does call plays. Pep Hamilton left a couple of weeks ago to go back to college. He had been previously at Stanford before coming to the NFL with the Colts. Pep Hamilton has now gone to Michigan. As we look at the running backs here on your screen, this is the South practice. We're live in Mobile, Alabama on NFL Network for the 2017 Reese's Senior Bowl. Final practice of the week. Mike Mayock, Andrew Siciliano, Daniel Jeremiah, and Phil Savage with us.
Let's just listen in, take some sound here from these coaches and see what's going on here.
Step to your right, Matt. Good. Here we go. Quicker. Slide those feet. Good. Here we go. Good, man. Hey, don't forget now, you don't want to wind up.
Jamal Williams, BYU running back.
You ready to fight?
Matt
Watch
Days.
yourself back there now. Here we go. Punch. Violent speed, man.
What are you looking at there? What are you looking for, Mike, from Matt Days there?
From Matt Days, all you're really trying to do is get them to shuffle their feet with their hips down. And they want to keep their weight down. It's almost like a running back drill. This is a pass protection drill. Now watch the shuffle. How powerful are your hands? Can you keep your hips down and shuffle? Because the most important player in every franchise is that quarterback, and you better learn to protect them if you're going to be a running back in the NFL.
Kirby Wilson is the Browns run game coordinator. Rock Cartwright, the former NFL running back, the former Redskin, the assistant running back coach out there as well.
I want you right here, facing him.
You got a fullback right there, Freddie Stevenson, a blocking back, wearing the Florida State helmet, and there's Matt Days.
Come back here to your left. Go here.
And Mike, you've talked about the Manning Passing Academy. I sat in on one of those sessions with Eli and Peyton talking with these college quarterbacks, and they talked about the importance of getting together with your running backs because that is the last butt between the defense and you.
A little tighter here. I'm going to set you off on purpose to your right. You end up there and go. Defender, you got to give him a good look so he gets back. Be quick with your hands. Be violent with your hands, okay? Break! Good. Remember, don't cheat, though, so don't lean. Get in front of that defender. Get in front of that defender. We're trying to simulate something that's real. Right! Good. That's a good rep. Good rep. Switch it up. Next to it. Go over there. Good looks, guys. Good looks. That's it. Great. There you go. Now, when that's a great rep, Jamal. You got to sink your hips, right? When that's occurring, sink your hips. Drop your ass now. All right, you got to go again. You're up now. You're up. Jamal, you're up. Jamal, you're up.
You over there.
Now, remember what happened to you yesterday? You got thirsty, right? Your lungs. See what you hit. Pull your shoulders back, right? When you make contact, quick stabs, and then finish at the top. Quickly. Rush. Right. Okay, go back again. Go. Here we go, man.
Jamal Williams, BYU running back there.
It's a good drill.
Pat on the back, great rep.
You hear Kirby Wilson say he got thirsty yesterday?
Yep. What does that mean, Mike?
Means he got overeager. He got his nose over his toes. He got out of balance.
Sit up. Sit.
Right. Good. That's much better. That's much better.
It's a good drill.
Sinking your hip and staying low.
No chance really of getting hurt, but you're getting a simulation of 3 consecutive pass protections in about a 5-second period.
Freddie Stevenson there, the fullback out of Florida State. The other guys there, Matt Dyes, Jamal Williams, and Donnell Pumphrey, DJ Pumphrey, the all-time leading rusher in FBS history with the San Diego State helmet that he just took off.
On me, backs on 3. 1, 2, 3. Back. Let's go, baby. Good job. Here we go. Gas up, guys.
Wow, that's kind of cool there, watching the running backs. And waiting for the DBs and the receivers here as you're watching the South get their final practice on here at the 2017 Reese's Senior Bowl. Some individual drills. The North got their work in this morning. They are done. We heard John Fox as he broke his team down. Getting ready for a walkthrough tomorrow, some meetings tonight, and then the actual game on Saturday. Phil Savage down to the field just told us Josh Dobbs, the Tennessee quarterback, as you hear the horn, is going to start for the South in that game.